So today's talk is about developing your personal brand equity. As you all know, it's very important. It's just not enough to be good at design anymore. You really have to market yourself and to tell your story. It's a intense market out there, and you really have to stand yourself out from everybody else. And this is what today's little session is about. So welcome. Today, we are going to learn how to be more confident in presenting our best self. We're going to discuss useful tactics and methods to achieve strategic mindset, both on and offline, for a professional creative disposition that helps establish you as both a subject matter expert and a thought leader. And you need to align who you are with what you do. As you guys know a little bit about me, it's quite a bit, so I'm not going to read it. I'll leave it up here for a few seconds. This just kind of is me in a nutshell. As I said, I work for a private Saudi company. I'm doing the research and design in the field. I have a couple businesses that I work with, and I am an advocate of cultural awareness in several professional organizations, mostly in the design industry or in the business area. And this is about Mr. Felix Lee. I'll let you
go. I think it's such a long
it's so long. I know we can't really read it all, so you gotta hope you all are power readers.
So in a nutshell, I am basically a designer. I'm just radically curious about the world. That's kind of like how I call myself. Previously, I founded PackDad, a travel company, back when I was still in high school, and I sold that company at the age of 20. So that was like super good experience as a young kid. And then I became a sort of like a head of design at a couple of great companies back in Southeast Asia, notably GoTrade, that went through YC. So I was their founding design lead. I've helped startups from Y Combinator, Antler, so on and so forth. Featured in some news on that. But one thing that I'm most proud of recently, I'll share this, is that, so we all know how global the AD community can get, right? I'm sure everyone here is from all around the world, and I want to share a very, very interesting story. And so this is probably the most proud thing that I can say up to the whole year right now, and is that, I was actually at a house party last weekend. So a friend of mine invited me over. And it's my first house party in the US, because we don't do that back in Singapore, where I'm from. And so we were sitting in a circle. There was a group of friends, and we're sitting in circles, and we're doing an introduction of each other. And when it came to my turn, I just said, "Oh, I run a mentorship platform." And someone asked me, "So, what is the name of that?" And I said, "ADP List." Coming from Singapore, I'm like 16 hours flight away from San Francisco. So I said ADP List, and then four of them just turned to me and they're like, "Oh, you're the co-founder of ADP List. You're Felix from ADP List." I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Oh my God, I use your platform every other week, and every month." And so, that was like when I realized, like, oh wow, it's like the whole world is so small, but this community is huge as well. Maybe some of you might be, maybe some of them
yourself. I mean, I couldn't have picked a better person to co-host this with me. I mean, I immediately thought of Felix, because he has really just branded himself and the entire mentorship world very good, and in a very quick way. We've moved fast.
Yeah, we move really fast. And so it's as though that I don't have a last name. People just call me Felix ADP. It's not like Felix Lee, that's my last name, but it's like I don't really have a last name anymore.
That's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
So that's us in a nutshell. I mean, there's a plethora of information about us. I'm sure that we follow most of you all, and you follow us. So I'm sure that you all know about us already. So let's get into the content. I hope everybody maybe has some paper or pencil, their iPad ready to take some notes, because I think that we have a wealth of information to help you get on the journey of branding yourself and being a thought leader or a subject matter expert in the design industry. So what we're going to talk about first, we're going to talk about understanding your professional presence. Creatives are filled with immense, unique talent. And when we zone in on that area of our brain that engages with the aspects that bring us happiness, We tap into a special magic that makes us fulfilled and successful. Who are you? What is your brand? What is your thing? So I'm not going to read everything, these are visuals. I really want us to talk that have some key points. And this really explains what a subject matter expert is, what a thought leader is, the differences of them and why they're important. So one thing, branding yourself makes you a subject matter expert. Branding yourself makes you a thought leader. And when you continue down this path and you make people know who you are and what you do, you're doing this yourself. It's very, very important. Have any thoughts on this, Felix?
Yeah, I think, back to your point, and I want to maybe highlight the importance of personal branding and being a sort of like a thought leader in something. I mean, obviously, you do have to have a certain level of experience before you think about being a thought leader, because, there's way too much thought leader that has not done design, and there's just like a design thought leader. And I think that's kind of like, it's kind of weird, and so you always want to make sure that you bring credibility, but the importance of actually, personal branding is that, branding, first of all, is not marketing. I think that's a huge difference.
Yeah.
Marketing is telling, people who you are, right? It's as simple as that, telling people who you are, what you do, so on and so forth. Branding is telling people what you stand for,
Yeah.
right? And I stand for the access for mentorship around the world. I stand for an open access to mentorship, and I continue to push for that. And I also stand for building great products, right? And so sometimes I do tweet about that, sometimes I do write about that. So branding, personal branding is so important. Is because it's not just about who you are on a surface level, like what you do. It's really about what you stand for, right? What is your voice? What do you represent?
It has to
right?
be natural. It has to be organic.
It has to be natural. It has to be organic. Exactly. So like what is said here, it goes beyond just your job responsibilities. So I think that's important. That's something that I want to highlight on this slide as well.
Definitely. What is personal branding? Well, we're going to touch on what Felix said. It's about building a strong personal brand for your career, your life experiences, and your financial future in your own hands. You're able to tell your own story, and you're not leaving it to other people to tell your story. You're able to market, to brand yourself as a real person, to get behind the scenes organically and realistically, and to tell other people who you are. Like Felix said, it's very natural, and we all have our thing. We all do amazing things, especially in the creative industry. We have immense talent, and it's so easy to talk about these things and to open them up for people to see. And it's interesting. It's a way of directing how people perceive us. Instead of letting them make the story for us, we're telling them our story ourselves. Think of your online reputation as a product that constantly needs to be marketed in the right way. So how do you find your target audience? As you create descriptions of your target audience, you'll want to ask yourself the following. Is there specific genders that you want to focus on? What age groups do you want to target? Do I appeal to some generations more than others? What ethics and values are important for me, for my target audience to have? What do my competitors know about my target audience that I do not know? These things, while I can't say that I sit personally and look for a target audience, because my growth is very organic. Obviously I'm targeting the design industry, right? Because this is what I know, this is what I'm good at. And so I'm talking design tips, or I'm talking about the interactions that I have, or the panels. This is my audience. What about yours, Felix?
Yeah, my audience started off a lot with designers. So, maybe I can share that journey. So when I was in the army, so I used to be in the army in Singapore, and I had to spend so I was 2 years in the army, and I was conscripted to it. And so, in that 2 years, I actually told myself that I wanted to be known as a designer. So in that 2 years, I actually, created a lot of contents regarding design. So one advice, if you're looking at my profile today, don't look at what I posted recently, all right? I want you to look all the way back to 2019. Date all the way back to 2019 if you can, or somewhere in 2019 or 2019 or 2020. 2019 would be the best period. So date back to 2019 and see what I've done. Back then, I wasn't talking about myself. Back then, I wasn't talking about a lot of things. I was talking about the things that I learned in design, the things that I learned through my mentorship calls with others, because I learn a lot of things and I share it, I tag them, so on and so forth. So then I continue to target people in design from that sense. So I know that there's a lot of great personal brands that is out there, but when you're starting your journey, don't look at someone else's step 10 and then take it as a step 1, because there's a
Absolutely.
1 to 9, there's a first to 9 step that builds the foundation. You got to understand the history before you can create the future. So it's really important to try to understand that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I completely agree. So what enables a successful brand? Knowing your consumer, creating a compelling narrative, authenticity in content and your communication, consistency, understanding your liabilities and challenges that you have to overcome. And one of the most important things that I like and why I bolded this, your brand is not what you do. It is who you are. Point of view, this is your thing. We all have a thing. I think my thing is I'm an American living in Saudi Arabia. I'm helping build the design industry, and I'm very much into supporting local. I mean, if you see the things that I have, I wear clothes that are made by local designers, shoes, products. That's important to me, for me as an authentic person that's supporting local, that's supporting Saudi design. This is part of my story. So these are the things that make me me. I'm sure, Felix, you have your things. What are your things?
Yeah, I think, creating a successful brand is really about, what enables a successful brand. And I just put in the chat as well, there are great brands out there, right? There are great brands out there that we all admire. And I think a personal brand and a brand, like a product brand or company brand, is very similar. It's very similar. The philosophy, the approach is very similar, right? Some of them like Notion. I just saw one of that. My personal favorite brand is Nike. I learn a lot from them. And I think what makes a successful brand, is simply reiterating on the message and the vision that you stand for. Nike believes that, Nike don't sell shoes. They don't just sell, your shirts or whatever. They sell you what you can become. They sell you, they sell you a lifestyle. They sell you they sell you a potential of what you can potentially become through Nike, right? And I think that's that, right? When you think about personal brand, I think what enables a successful personal brand is really what can people become when they're with you. I think that's a very important question to ask yourself. And I think when you ask yourself that question, I think it directs you to the right, step forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So topic 2, creating a personal brand vision, goals and objectives for your vision. Your personal brand is how the world views you, your reputation, personality, habits, and behaviors. And listen, if you don't, like I told you before, if you don't tell the story, people will create your story. So it's better left in your hands. Creating your professional presence online and identifying the right paths for you. How do you brand yourself? Dig deep and find out what's special about you and utilize it. What I suggest, get a piece of paper, get your iPad, have a brainstorming session with yourself. You know yourself more than anybody. You know the things that you're good at. You know what is your special things, your strengths, what you're good at. You already know these things. Sometimes we miss them because it's so natural to us, like breathing, but we all have something so beautiful inside of us. Understand the power of copywriting, tone and vision, and why they are the most important aspect of branding yourself. What are the popular social media platforms being used that can help you? Why you need to be different while having a consistent message on each one. Your tone needs to portray the type of designer you are, your strengths, and your visual voice. So for me, it's very important. I've always really wanted to have a business language. It's in my tones and whatever I put out. So these things are super important for me in my personal brand. I've always wanted to raise design in the industry and look like, hey, she's creative, but she's very professional too. Like the way she speaks, her copywriting, her storytelling is strong, her business language is strong. This is very important for me to raise our industry, for people to understand that we are a huge industry. We are one of the biggest money-making industries in the world. And we're professional too. We're not just creative. A lot of people they'll ask me all the time, oh, I say a designer, they automatically, oh, you're a graphic designer. There's like almost 300 disciplines under the umbrella of design, and we have academia and design. We are a huge industry. So it's very important for me that people stop putting us like in this little hobby box, and they start taking us serious for what we are and what we can do. And I think things like your storytelling, your spelling, your grammar, they really portray us under that light. Any comment, Felix?
I have no comments. I think you said it all on that.
Great, great. So sharpening your networking skills, prep, find out about events and the people attending. For me, branding myself, if you look on my Instagram or my Twitter, you'll see me at different design shows. You'll see me on different panels. I make myself present. I put myself in these situations. I make sure to be a leader in these areas and to post them so that everybody sees me. So they see your face and they eventually see you as a big player in this industry. I'm positioning myself. I'm branding myself. You can't sit at home waiting for people to call you. You can't sit at home waiting for anything. You have to go out and you have to do the work. You have to show up. You have to take the pictures. You have to put it on your social media. This is a huge part of it. Focused. Whenever you are at a networking event, any sort of event, when you stay with the same group of people, and it's easy, specifically if maybe you're shy and you're on your phone, it's not appealing to others. They're scared to come talk to you because they think you're standoffish. You're not utilizing the event properly. Go talk to everybody. I mean, I've had stories where I've seen somebody that's a big player in the industry. I wanted to go and talk to them, but I was like, Brandy, you don't know this person, you're going to look crazy. And I'm like, you better go over there and do it. I'm having a whole dialogue with myself. So I go up and introduce myself, and I have made so many amazing connections this way. You have to get out of your comfort zone. You have to force it. And, you know, people are nice and friendly, and you make this introduction, they remember you. Business cards. Never underestimate the power of a business card, especially if you make a nice introduction, they will remember you. Listen and engage. Be interested in what people say. Don't make it fake. You know, these are real connections. This is real life. Don't ever look at somebody like, oh, I want to talk to him because I just want to network, or I want to get this connection. Talk to them because you want to make an actual human connection. We're not here to use people or to get what we can. We're here to make friends, to make connections, to utilize them. And whenever people feel this and you know you're genuine about it, they want to help you. They will help you when you need it, and there will be a time. And the same for you. Help them when they need it. Follow up. Every time I meet somebody at a networking event or somebody that could be a great contact, I always follow up the next day with an email or a text. You know, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for giving me your contact. I really hope to see you or talk to you in the future. I'm not asking them for anything. I'm thanking them for their time. I'm thanking them for switching information. It's very kind. People remember this. So this is the different graph about networking and the percentages. Personal networking in person, it's still above everything else. Online is 40%. Online is great. These are statistics for the past year. Personal networking is still 95%. What does this say? You still have to get out there and you still have to show up to these events. Job networking, 85%. Professional networking, 80%. It says a lot. Online networking is still the bottom. While it's still good, sessions like this, I'm actually meeting people from all over the world right now. This is great, but personal networking still number one. It's still the king of networking. I have some social media tips too. I'm sure, Felix, you can hone in here afterwards with your own, since you have become the king of social media in the design industry. So one thing that I always tell people in my mentoring sessions, you will not believe some of the things that I see. People will have on their LinkedIn or their portfolio, they'll have a link to their social media. The social media has absolutely nothing to do with their professional career. I have two Instagrams, for example. I have my professional Instagram and I have my private Instagram. My professional network does not need to see my private life. They don't need to see what I'm doing on vacation. It's very important, like I said, your reputation and keeping it professional, keeping your private life for yourself and having your career life for your professional network. Be very conscious of what you write, post, and like on the internet. The reality is we are living in the digital world. I see tweets all the time. I want to like them. I want to comment. I don't. Why? Maybe it's going to get linked back to me in 5 years, like what Brandy said about this topic. I just think it in my head and move on. I don't even like it at this point. So I'm very conscious about what I'm doing because this is 2022. We have to think about every single thing we do. Things stay on the internet forever. They never go away. You have to watch these things. Utilize what you have on social media, reels, stories, and all the other new functions that constantly come up. You're going to figure out what's best for you. For me, I mean, I'm not really personally, I know that I'm kind of awkward on video and I don't do a lot of these. I'm much more of a writer and a pitcher. Maybe it's not the best, but it's what makes me feel comfortable in it, what works for me. You should do what makes you feel comfortable as a person and what you feel works best for you. You know, there's no blueprint for these kinds of things. You have to do this because this person does it. Again, go back to organic and natural. Do what feels good to you. And, you know, sometimes we get stuck in our comfort zone and we're scared to do things. This is very scary for me right now. But, you know, I'm showing up because how can I be a leader in the design industry if I don't do these things? I have a goal and I'm reaching for it.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for sharing that, Brandy. And you know, I think in many ways there is merit in sharing your personal life, but I'll tell you that don't ever just share things for the sake of it. I think it's very important. You know, like I mean, I have a social media, and you know, people do follow that on Instagram as well. I rarely share about like I rarely post anything, but I just share like Instagram stories because it's 24 hours. But I think that there is merit in trying to get people know about you as a human being besides just work. But if it's a personal, if it's a professional account, you can have a little bit of small blend of that, but don't put it out there like unknowingly. I think there is something that's going on LinkedIn right now that people are saying that, oh my God, you know, LinkedIn is becoming like Facebook. I'm seeing things that are like, oh, I just got my swimming certificate or something. I just got my keys to school or whatever. And look, content is king. All right. I'll tell everyone first of all, content is king. However, context is queen, and queen run the house always. And you know, you want to
like you more.
Yeah, like, you know, like you want a context to be right? You want the context to be right. Yeah. Sure, I'm not saying that we shouldn't share anything personal, but I think that you have to share it in the context that is right. Sharing that you're bringing your kids to school or something on LinkedIn, or that you just got your swimming license or whatever, that isn't going to help anyone. That isn't going to add value. The whole point about about content is obviously it brings value first of all, but the context is something that you should put in mind on every single social media. You don't put short form videos on LinkedIn, do you? Right? You put short form videos on Reels on Instagram. You put short form videos on TikTok, because that's where it's most relevant. That's where people attention span is on that particular content. Now, when you put those contents on LinkedIn, people don't have that kind of attention span. So I think you have to really understand things that, you know, it's not just about the content that you're posting, but the context is extremely important. I cannot stress that enough, right? So that's something that I want to highlight here as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you really, for me, LinkedIn, I will talk about, I like LinkedIn, as you all know. But I really have to tell myself, if it's not related to work or career, don't post it, Brandy. Twitter is kind of the same. I have to say, Twitter for me, I will talk about social events. I kind of merge Instagram and LinkedIn onto the Twitter because it's kind of that sweet spot. Instagram has something nice though, like you're talking about, showing behind the scenes and not always the professional things. I can show like at a cafe with my friend working, like these real kind of things that we do, or me walking my dog, because these are things, this is me. And, this is what Instagram is, a visual thing. You have to keep it very natural because it's important for people to think, well, this is a human. They're normal. They do normal human things. It's not just work, work, work. Yeah, we have careers and we want to flourish, but that's not the reality of our heart or who we are. We live, we have friends, we have relationships, we have pets, we go on vacation, we go to cool restaurants. These things are nice to see, and they're nice to kind of post these kind of little behind the scenes things, which you can without getting like so personal. I mean, there's private things, and when you overshare, then you kind of step into another territory where people are kind of like, oh, they're not trusting your brand anymore. So yeah, there's a really sweet spot, but it's a natural spot. So this is something else that we're going to talk about, first or third person. So I'm sure you all know what these mean. First person is used when being personal, so it should be utilized in places like social media platforms. When I'm on my social media, I'm talking to you. It would be weird if I'm talking about myself in another voice, like Brandy went to the cafe today. No, I went to the cafe today. I'm being normal, I'm being natural, and this is important for my social media, for my audience, to speak like this. However, if you go to my website, I'm not talking in first person, I'm talking in third person. Why? The reality is that I found anytime I'm in a newspaper, I'm in an article, they don't take the time to come and ask me for my bio or any of these things. So I've realized that they go and copy and paste it. I have it ready for them to copy and paste. In this sense. I already have everything perfectly prepared, and I know that it's professional, and I know that it's exactly what I'm looking for. So in websites, things like this, professional, third person, social media, first person, we're real. So you really need to learn when to the person versus the business and intertwine those. So we're going to go through some final thoughts, and I'm going to read these in my thoughts, and I'm going to let Felix read some from his list. So understand the business landscape and relationships. Learn design history, the mistakes and success. Whenever I learn about the design industry, like on my Twitter, I have a whole list for the design industry. Every day I wake up and I read it first. I'm learning everything about it because it's important for me. I'm able to curate content and to make discussions and to see what's working and what's not. It's a valuable tool for any industry to actually know about these topics. Do not be afraid to make mistakes. I make mistakes constantly, but I learn from them, as we should. Understand when to say no and conflict resolutions. I think a lot of times in the creative industry, we say yes all the time. We're afraid that opportunities will pass us by, or we're afraid that maybe we won't be taken seriously. We have to say no sometimes and do what's right for us as people, what's right for our career and our success. Communicate. When things are going well and when they're not, it's important to be real with your brand. So the thing with social media, sometimes it just looks so beautiful and perfect. And I think we lose something with our brand when we have this. Again, going back to being human, people want to see the mistakes, or, hey, I had a bad day. Hey, I I stuttered earlier on this. It was embarrassing for me, but I did it. You know, this is a learning experience. We make these mistakes, we grow from them. Surround yourself with people that are more talented than you. Learn from them. I love to surround myself with friends that are way above me in their career. I just feel I soak it in, and it just makes me feel excited to learn and to grow, and I feel proud of them. Words matter. You might have saw earlier that instead of using the word introvert, I highlighted it. I don't like to use this word. I like to use, different words about their personality, reserved personality. Instead of saying introvert, I'll say a reserved personality. I think that, for example, I'm going to go on this to explain why words matter. I've always felt like when people call people introverts, they're putting them in a box away from society. And it's completely normal for humans to have different personalities. It's okay to be different and so I don't like the word introvert. I've never liked this word, and I like to say they have reserved personalities. This is a definition or a usage of why words matter and the way that we word things and the importance of the words. Accept that you have limits. Do not undervalue or overvalue yourself. Know your worth and stick to it. Build relationships, not just connections. Like I told you before, when you're networking, you should not be looking at them as a connection. Build a relationship. You're going to go into a networking event or an event, and you're going to look at it completely different when you have this mindset going in. People are going to feel that you're genuine, and it's going to be a game changer. I promise. When I started doing this, my career and my life changed. It's a big thing. Stay curious, keep learning, keep experience, and always build your confidence as much as possible. Felix, you're muted.
Yeah. So for any final thoughts, I think personal branding shouldn't be tied to an objective, like, because you just want to find jobs and then you get like personal brand. So never do things for the sake of something that is way too practical, if I'll be honest myself, right? Never do something for the sake of just money. Never do something for the sake of just finding a job. Never do something for the sake of something that is very tangible. And I really do mean that, because the best people that I know, they don't do it for these tangible things. They do it because they genuinely enjoy it. They want to be the best in it. Why did I start my personal branding journey 2 years ago in 2019? Because I want to be known as one of the best designers, in fact, the best designer in Singapore, for creating the things that I would create. And that's the journey that I put myself on. I didn't set out because I needed a job and I needed to get my voice out. I wanted to be the best that people have ever seen, in Singapore. And so that's why I set it up to be. I think I've done well on that aspect. People in Singapore do recognize that. But that journey hasn't stopped. Could you imagine if my journey was just about finding a job, right? So always think in a very infinite horizon, because I see questions that concern me about, finding jobs here and there. Look, while that is an important criteria, like I say, you're going to look back and you're going to thank yourself that you didn't do certain things just because of a short-term need. And I think this is extremely critical to kind of like put in your mind that, when you want to do something like personal brand, it has to be a long-term game. It has to be an infinite horizon. It's about you. If all about yourself is finding a job, then, I've got nothing to say. But I'm sure all of us, it's not just about finding jobs, right? Personal brand is not just about that finding job thing, right? And so go beyond that. People don't want to know what you do. What do you stand for? You stand for finding a job? Great. But I think that you probably stand for something more than just finding a short-term job, right? So do that. Do just that, right? Stand up for something that you mean, whether it's climate change, whether it's sustainability, whether it's good design. so on and so forth, whether it, whether is it like, giving it forward, mentorship, share those things. And share every single learning that you have with the public, share, learn in public, build in public, whatever, right? Like share those things in public, because people need to know that you are moving ahead, that you are constantly moving. Today, you took 30 minutes time out on this session, right? You learn about personal branding. Now, what I would do, and I hopefully not everyone just like do that, but obviously feel free to customize it. But what I would do from such a session is, I know that some of you are taking screenshots. That's great. So I'll take a screenshot and I'll say, like today I attended a session with Brandy and Felix on ADPs, and here are the top 10 things that I learned about personal branding, and I share it. And people will want to see that. The reason why people want to see that content is because it adds value to them as well. So value does not have to be created out of nowhere. It doesn't have to be created out of the thin air. You don't have to do your research or whatever. It could come from a simple session like that. Take a screenshot, post it. This is the things that I learned. Do you guys have anything else to add in? Do you guys, have anything to comment on? So on and so forth. Let people engage with it. So document your experiences and share the learnings, right? I think this is a good opportunity to get started, right? So I always tell people, like, anything right in front of you could be an opportunity to learn something and share from. When you have that perspective, every single mentorship session that I go to is a way for me to document, right? Today, I just posted something about the Slack partnership that AD Please is having with Slack. And, I share that on our social media today. And I share that why this is so important, because this is what I stand for. And so I think, when you document things and not try to create it out of thin air, everything becomes a lot smoother to communicate as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for all of that. You're right. I mean, it's easy to create content for everything that we do. Like he gave a great example about this session, and tagging ADP list and tagging anybody that's in here, and having all of the lists that you learned, and then the people you tag, they re-tag it, and it gets a conversation going. This is exactly the kind of things that you do, the bridges that you create that link back. And I saw that one of you all in the question or in the chat asked about the first person and the third person, and if you should change what you're doing. I really want to say that like I said, there's no set blueprint. These are just tips to get your mind thinking in another way, or to maybe open up something that you didn't think about. Everything is very different for everybody. And this is this is the beauty of the world, is that we're all different and we find those things that work for us. Something that I do might not work for you. Maybe your brand isn't, like business tone like mine. Maybe yours is fun, or you're funny, or, this is nice. Do what works for you, but you have to really hone in on those crafts and those skills and find those things that work for you. I just want to let you guys know, if you look in the toolbar area, you can see where it says Q&A. If you could please drop all of your questions in there so that we're able to see them away from the chat, and we'll be able to answer them at the end. We would really appreciate that, so that we can kind of have them in one place, and that we can make sure that you get them answered. Also, yes, we are recording this, so we'll make sure that everybody gets a copy of it, so you don't have to worry about taking screenshots or notes. And also all of the questions and answers that we write in the chat, I'll make sure to document all of those and send that document to everybody too. I know that these resource lists are the bread and butter of these kinds of talks, and we want to make sure that you all get the most out of it. So I have a couple resources that I use that are important for me. And Felix, if you have resources, of course, you can drop them in the chat as well. One thing that is very important for me is, well, I love research. It's clear for all of you that follow me. And so finding audience research to guide your strategy, it really helps for your country. Living in Saudi Arabia, sometimes the things that I post, or the timings that I post, or the stories that I post are very different from Singapore or from America. Everybody that's, global citizens are really well aware that it's very different in all of our countries and our markets. So sites like this, Capacity Interactive, I love this site. You're really able to take a deep dive into stats and audience research. So I really encourage you taking a look at it and going down that path for yourself.
Yeah, I want to actually have a question about someone actually asked a very good question earlier.
Okay.
Is regarding what metrics do I measure? Actually love that. I actually love that question. Because like I think metrics is extremely important to actually sort of like understand that. So I'm not sure if I can find it, but back in 2019 when I first started my personal branding journey, I actually record every single metrics like engagement in form of likes, comments, reach, so on and so forth of every single post that I make. And so I have this Excel sheet that actually I put the link there and I type in all the numbers and I sort of like calculate it. And I said, okay, this post is doing well. This post has a good co-viral, efficiency and whatnot. And so extremely, quantitative about the things that I do. In fact, every single thing that I do today is very quantitative. And I don't think that you can ever, like I once tell a teammate of mine, an employee, and some of the people that I work with, and I say that, the best people that I know spend about 70% of their time looking at Excel sheet and numbers in their day jobs. And the 30% of their time is spent on execution. The reason why I say that is because I do the same. I spend a lot of time measuring the things that I do, and then I go and execute it. Now, the reason for that is because, you want to be able to understand the direction that you're going, and numbers, they don't lie. Numbers is so clear. Like if something is working, the numbers would show. So, I measure the engagement, I measure the reach, I measure what people love engaging with, what people like seeing, and then I kind of like try to write more things around that. I try to document more things around that, right? People love, seeing things that I learned on mentorship session, I share them. People love seeing things that I joined a group session and what I learned from it and they couldn't attend it. I share them as well because that's what people like. And so, I constantly try to measure those things. And so it's so important that, you become quantitative about things and then try to measure those things as well. And same with design. If today you're a designer and you're not measuring what you're designing, I think you should start doing that because, every single good designer in the best companies, they measure their design. And I think that's something that a little bit side topic that I don't see a lot in junior designers these days. So start measuring every single thing that you do. There's a reason why people say that numbers don't lie, because they are going to be the things that is going to prove the success of the things that you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And, as mentors, I have to say that we learn so much from these sessions ourselves. You gain such a wealth of knowledge. I mean, you go in with, trying to pass down some knowledge or to help the mentees, but we gain so much experience and knowledge ourselves. So it's really a merry-go-round of knowledge being passed. It's not just one or the other. And this is something very beautiful about mentorship. So I wanted to share another resource with you all. We were talking about grammar and spelling. One of the best things that I've used, I don't know what I would do without this app, Ginger. I use it in my browser. I type everything that goes into my Twitter feed, my Instagram post, my LinkedIn before I post anything. And it's crazy, I'm obviously English is my first language, and I feel like I have strong copywriting skills and storytelling skills, but usually I always have a mistake. For my brand, these mistakes can't happen. So yeah. And then let's see. So yeah, this is a quote that I love that I created. We're all equipped with different tools to be able to create change. Mine just happens to be design, and I think all of yours just happen to be design as well. We can create change in the world. Every single thing around us is a design. The roads, the operating systems, research is designed. There's a plethora of design disciplines, and everything around us is designed by a designer. It's a huge industry, and we have the tool to create these changes in whatever industry it is. I'm going to you can find out more information about me here. And yeah, we're gonna get to the questions and the answers. You all already know all of Felix's information, so we don't need to share it. But yeah, I would love for you all to follow me, and I would love to follow you, and I would love for us to interact. And you can really use my social media and my website as a benchmark about how I present myself, and looking at it and finding out how it can work for you and what you can do. And please, you can email me or message me on any of those platforms and ask me any questions. Our session doesn't have to stop here. Feel free to show me something, or to ask my opinion, or to say anything that you want to. I'm here to support you and to help you grow in the best way possible. So let's get to the questions and answers. Felix has been answering them. So good. Great. So Jessica is asking, so I think this is really good, Felix. She's asking if you could explain a bit more about measuring your design. This is a great question, Jessica.
Sure. Obviously, we're in a personal branding workshop, but I'm always down to talk about design. First of all, like when you design for a product, what do you think you're designing for? I think that's a very important question to ask yourself. Do you understand what exactly you're designing for? Are you designing for like a usability problem? Are you designing for like a specific growth initiative, so on and so forth? So question is that do you know what you're designing for? Now, I think there is a belief that I think it's a very wishful belief that to benefit the user, you have to sacrifice on the business, and to benefit the business, you have to sacrifice the user. And I can tell you that it couldn't be far way wrong about that. And I think that's why designers are a little bit skeptical about like looking at numbers and so on and so forth, because they feel like it's my right, I'm supposed to fight for my users. And I'll tell you this: if today the business says that someone is not checking out on their items through a fashion shop, like someone just want to buy a blouse and it's like I can't check it out properly, right? We need to increase the conversion rate of that. For sure, obviously you are trying to solve a problem about conversion, but at the same time, if you think about it, it's truly a usability issue that someone is not being able to check out of the page that they want. It's not as though you're trying to force them into buying new items. You're just simply making sure that when they are ready to check out, the conversion becomes higher and it's a smoother path for them to do so. And you're actually solving that usability problem. And I think the problem with today is that we tend to look at usability and we tend to look at metrics as two different set of things, but it's actually not. UX and measurements is actually the same thing. When you actually try to solve for certain metrics that you're trying to impact for the company, essentially there is a very real user problem there. You probably just don't see it, and you got to work backwards and say, all right, what's affecting this checkout flow? Okay, now I know, right? Users are stuck because they don't understand that there's a discount code. They don't understand that they can apply this and that, so on and so forth. And that's where you design a better thing for that. You design a better experience for that. And you always got to measure, right? And to your question, what do you measure? And in this case, I'll tell you that you're measuring the checkout rates, you're measuring the conversion rate, you're measuring how many people can now successfully check out. What is the conversion before and after, right? What is the impact of your design that has affected the conversion on the side of the business, but also help people to easily, check out of that itself. And when you start doing that, every single design becomes extremely quantitative. Just from the way that I'm talking about this, fashion shop right now, every single design on the internet can be very quantitative, and it should be. quantitative by the rights of it, right? Any design that is not quantitative is, to be honest, like it's same thing that I'll be very blunt, is that it's actually wishful, right? I'll give you an example. The first version of Airbnb and the version that Airbnb is today is actually the same. Now, believe it or not, it's actually entirely the same. The first version of 83 is in 2008, which is like more than 12 years ago, probably. It's basically about booking an Airbnb and stay there. You just kind of like stay in someone's house. Today, what is the difference of that? Essentially, there's no difference. You're still booking someone else's place to stay in there, right? But what has changed though, is precisely what I'm talking about here, which is that, the experience improves, the metrics improves as well, right? But the value of the product, it doesn't change. It has no change to it at all, right? And so when you think about measuring things, you really have to go down to the level as a designer to understand, what user problem are you solving, and at the same time, what metrics is that user problem impacting. And I think this is a very critical thing for every designer to understand. And unfortunately, it's a rare commodity today. I can tell you that it's a rare commodity. That's why I want to highlight on this call, so that the 50 of you here today can hear about this. It's an extremely rare commodity, and I hope that all of us can start practicing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for that. It was, I know that we get a lot of questions that's not about brand equity, but in the end, we are designers and we tend to always loom in on different design topics. There's a couple questions that I really wanted to talk about. A couple of you are talking about, being good at many things or having different backgrounds and how to tell about this in your brand or what you should use. I have this issue. I think we all have this issue as people in the creative industry. Sometimes we are taught that we have to do so many things because of lack of education. I see so many companies wanting to hire a graphic designer, but they're expecting the graphic designer to know how to code websites and do web design. This is lack of education in the design industry itself. And because of this, we tend to start thinking, I have to learn this skill. I have to know how to do this. I was doing this and I want to do that. This is something difficult for me. This is something I struggle with too. Should I talk about the design industry? Should I talk about personal branding and networking? I'm telling you my strong suits. Should I talk about small business? They're all three very different things. And sometimes I struggle with what should I focus on. I think it's really what I'm trying to do at this point is trying to combine them in a way that makes it work. But it is really easy to get lost in instead of being like an expert, you just are, dwelling in many different paths. And sometimes this is interesting, but sometimes your message and your key point gets lost, and this can actually take away from your brand or your value as a design leader. What do you think about this topic, Felix?
I don't have much to add actually, so yeah.
Okay, great. So thank you so much for answering all of the questions. Let me go through and make sure if anybody else has any last questions before we wrap it up, please just drop them in the Q&A so that we can make sure to answer your questions about personal brand equity and the value of having brand equity for your career and your growth. Setting goal, Nicole said, should we set up goals for what we want to do, branding ourselves, work side and personal side? Absolutely. We have to create these kinds of goals for every aspect of our life. Everybody's goals are very different from one another. And I think as creatives, sometimes we get sidetracked and we get sidetracked easy. Trust me on this one. I'm one to speak. I'm coming up with new plans, new business plans constantly. And I'm telling myself, is this something that adds half to you and to where you're going? Is this, and I've tried to really ask myself this question. I would say half the time, this adds no value to me. This adds no value to my career or to my career goals. So I'm like, Brandy, stop. I think this is an important question for everybody to remember. Does it add value to me and my career goals? ask yourself this. And I think that it'll really help with those goals and tuning them in for your personal growth. So yeah, we'll try to answer all of the questions. I'll try to answer all of the questions and get them on a document for everybody, because I know that whenever I attend these, I want to make sure that I get the most out of it. I really hope that you all enjoyed it. I hope even if we taught just one of you all one great tip, it was worth it for me as a mentor and for growing you and your career. You all are amazing, and what you put out is amazing. I'm so excited to be part of this initiative, and I'm so happy that Felix is allowing us to go down this journey with him. I love being a designer. I love being in the design industry, and I've always been so excited for this. I felt like young Brandy chose well, and I'm still so happy to be on this, and I'm happy to have all of you next to me. And yeah, we're designers, and this is an amazing thing, and we're all so blessed. And I really hope to get to know all of you a little bit more. Thank you, Felix. Thank you, ADP List, and thank you to all of the amazing designers out there. It is our pleasure for you to listen to anything that we have to say.